Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of LUFCFANZONE podcast. I'm Sam Isles.
And I'm Jack Ellis.
And each episode we'll be talking to an ex-Leeds United player or manager about their time at the club. Our guests will be chosen by you, our followers and listeners, who get the chance to choose our upcoming guest by voting on a poll on our LUFCFANZONE Instagram story.
Our first poll received over 1,000 votes and showed that 75% of you wanted an ex-player instead of a manager. We've managed to successfully contact over 60 former Leeds players and managers about featuring on our episodes. However, we wanted to make sure we started off with a real former fans' favourite on our opening show.
Bamba! That's right. Today we're joined by former defender and captain, Saul Bamba. Thanks for joining us, Saul.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Saul, how's lockdown been treating you?
Very difficult, very, very difficult. But I've got to say, first and foremost, I think it's important for everyone to stay safe, to respect what the government said, because obviously it's a pandemic. It affects everybody. I know everyone is not fortunate to have a house, gardens, and can just stay at home. But as much as possible, I think we need to respect the rules and try to stay safe. So if we do that, we're going to save lives. So that's important to be said. After that, yeah, of course, lockdown will not be difficult for everybody, for myself included. I'm normally someone like to going out with the kids and walk the dogs and everything, but unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that. But like I said, it's nearly the end of it. Hopefully, we'll be back to normal pretty soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
You joined Leeds a few years ago now, wasn't it, in 2015? But is it all right if we start with the beginning of your career?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you grew up on the outskirts of Paris, but what was life like for you before you became a professional footballer?
It was pretty, I can call it like pretty normal, really. I was going to school near my house, and I was going to training on the Tuesday night, on the Thursday night. I wasn't a very good student, I've got to be honest. So football took pretty big part of my life, and pretty quick I wanted to play the game professionally. But obviously my mum and dad wanted me to do school and to work well at school and to have a good job at the end. My mum wanted me to be a doctor. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. So it was a big challenge me, but start playing my local team, and from there I never looked back. I was fortunate to have some scout from Paris Saint-Germain coming to watch me play and decide to take me. And from there I went to the academy when I was 11, and I never looked back.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually. You began your career at Paris, but your mother wanted you to become a doctor? Is that true?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think what happened is I was, like I said, I went to my local club playing there, and a few of the scouts was coming and knocked on my door and said they wanted to speak to my mum and dad, and said I may go chance to become professional if I go through the academy and everything. But my mum said no, because she said I need to focus on school, and she wanted me to be a doctor, so I need to work out of school, so I can't play football or be an academy and be a good doctor. So she said no a few times, but I was lucky. The scout really fancied me, and he was coming to the house every weekend. And at some point, my mum and dad decided to let me go and do it, because they said if the guy keep going in the house and asking for me to join, so that means maybe I've got something. So they give me the chance.
Yeah. So it was the scout that persuaded your parents rather than you asking to become one.
Oh yeah. Chance. No chance to convince them. Excuse me. I remember crying during the week and said to mom to let me go and play, and it's an opportunity for a lifetime for me. But she had none of it. She didn't want to do it. So I was lucky. The scout was very persuasive, and he kept coming to the house. And at the end, my mom and dad let me go.
They gave in.
Obviously, exactly. Obviously, at that time as well, you were still very young. Did you have to sacrifice anything to become a footballer?
Yeah, I think for me the most difficult one in my family, because I left the system in Paris at that time. From Monday to Friday, you're away. You stay in an academy and you go to school, and you're back on the Friday night. You're back at home until the Sunday morning. So I just had the Friday night, the Saturday all day, And the Sunday morning early, I needed to go back because we play a game. And after that, you stay in the academy and you start the week again on Monday, start going to school. So from 11 to 16, I was doing that. So I miss the family. I miss my brother and sister. I miss my mom and dad. I miss my friends as well, obviously. But that was the hardest sacrifice for me. But I mean, when you want to do something in life, anything in life, you need to do sacrifice. So at the end, I was happy because I made it. But I think at that time, the most difficult for me was to miss my whole family.
Yeah, of course. And when you first started at Paris, did you begin as a midfielder and then become a defender? Is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely true because I was actually playing in midfield when I was playing for my local club. And when I joined Paris as well, I was in midfield for my first 2 years at the academy. And unfortunately, one day we went to play somewhere, and a few of the lads missed the bus, and it was the one of our best defender who missed the bus, so he didn't make the game. So the manager at the time said, "Oh well, so you have to play at the back because I've got no one else." And I played good that day. Since then, I was a centre half.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, Sol, online it says that you played one senior game for the PSG first team when you were 21 in
Yeah,
2005.
yeah,
Do you feel like you should have been given
yeah.
more opportunities at Paris?
Well, I don't know because it's obviously it's a bigger club now if I can say on term of money. But it's always been a big club, and it's always a club who buy superstar, and it's very difficult for a young player to break through. So I was fortunate to have a chance. I played and I signed professional when I was 16, and I was training with the first team for 4 or 5 years, but never managed to break through. I just played one game, one cup game, one league game. I came on for 20 minutes. We play away at Nice. And after that, I was just playing friendly games, and I never managed to play a whole season. So I asked to go on loan actually a few times, but the manager said no because he said obviously if we had a few injury and suspension, you'd be next. So yeah, I think my biggest disappointment is this: is that I wish I could have played more games to show what I was capable to do at the time, but at the same time, I understand the club is a big club; they were buying superstars, so it was always going to be difficult for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you said, you were a young player coming through. Was there any player who took you under their wing, to help your development? Maybe another centre half at the club at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a few to be fair. The whole first at the time, especially when I joined them, I was 16, so they were good as gold with me. But I think the main one was Mauricio Pochettino because he was playing centre half as well. And straight away he took me under his wing, and we studied the game together. I remember after training, he used to take me at the canteen and show me how to defend, tell me like what I've done wrong during the training, and sometimes I should be smart I grab the shirt of the striker, how to be clever, how to make a foul without getting caught by the referee. And even outside the game, he said to me, "You start from now. You have to sleep early, eat properly." He was good as gold, and we're still in touch. And I was glad to see him. He actually said that after when last season when we won the Premier League and we played Tottenham, and he took me to the dressing room and he introduced me to all the Tottenham players and said, "It's because of him I'm here because he took me under his wing when I was 16."
Yeah.
And that was very nice from him.
Oh, nice, nice. So when you did leave PSG, you moved to Scotland. Apologies if I do
Yeah,
butcher this pronunciation. Is it Dunfermline? Is that right?
that's right. No,
Yeah.
that's very good pronunciation actually.
Is it? Yeah, I'm just reading it now, and I've been looking at it for the past 5 minutes, thinking, how do I pronounce this? But yeah. So yeah, at the time, it may have seemed a strange move to move from Paris to Scotland.
Yeah,
How did it come about?
yeah. Um, that was very strange for everybody, to be fair. Even my family didn't want me to go. But I left in bad term with Paris Saint-Germain because they wanted me to sign a new deal and I didn't because obviously I wanted to play. So we ended up leaving each other in a very, very bad term. And I had a few options to go in different French even the equivalent of the Championship, the League Two in France. But it never materialized because every time they were calling Paris and said, but he was meant to be the next big kid and you let him go. And they were saying like, yeah, he's a good player, but he got strong character, can cause you problems. So I ended up having no clubs in France to sign me. So the only option was to look abroad. And that one came about because my agent knew the manager there. And he said, you're young, you're physical, so I think you should look to play in England. And if you go there, you should go to Scotland because you got opportunity. At that time, Dunfermline was in what is Scottish First Division. First Division. So obviously it was big games against Celtic, Rangers. It was a big club like Hibernian and Hearts. So for me, anyone go in there and play professional football, and I was guaranteed to play first team football. I needed to take it, but few of my family wasn't happy with it. Like you said, it was a surprise move because I leave a big club like Paris Saint-Germain and ended up in there. But at the end, I think for me it was the best move because I ended up learning everything there, learning the language. Because when I moved there, I didn't speak any English. The league was very physical. I wasn't ready at all to go in England. So for me to go there and play my first season, I think I played 25 games, and that never happened to me before. So I think it was a very, very good learning curve, and overall for me it was an important move for the rest of my career.
Nice. So you spent 5 years in Scotland before moving to Leicester in the Championship. How do you find the difference between the Scottish football and the English football?
I think the physical side of it is quite similar, especially back in those days. I think it wasn't a huge difference. Obviously, the football, the tactical side, I would say, was better in England, apart maybe from the two best team in Scotland, Celtic and Rangers. But the physical side was very similar. So when I moved from Hibernian to Leicester, it wasn't much difference. And I was lucky. I knew the man who signed me is Sven-Göran Eriksson. I had him in the national team, so the transition was easy. And I came in. I did well the first game. I scored goals. So I think that can only be a good introduction. And from there, I never looked back. And I spent a year and a half, I think, in Leicester, where I only got good memory there.
Yeah, around that time as well, when you were at Leicester and the move to England, you began playing regularly for Ivory Coast. Why did you pick Ivory Coast as your represented nation instead of France, where you were born?
Well, because that came very early, because even before I moved to Scotland, I was already playing for Ivory Coast under 23s. I remember we played the World Cup in Dubai in 2003. That was the moment where I picked Ivory Coast because the French national team wasn't qualified for that World Cup, and we were, and I needed to make a decision. But before that, I was actually playing for French under 15, and that's why in France I had a bit of stick, because I was playing for the French national team before, and we didn't qualify, and Ivory Coast qualified, and I decided to change to go and play for Ivory Coast. So Paris wasn't happy. Had a few bad steak in the media as well. But at the end, I've got no regret because I ended up playing World Cups and African Cup of Nations, and I met great players. So I think at the end it was a good move.
Yeah, of course, because you represented Ivory Coast in like the Olympics and World Cup in South Africa and Africa Cup of Nations in 2010. What did it feel like to play for Ivory Coast in some of the world's greatest international competitions?
Yeah, I think at the time I didn't realize. I think it was more for my parents. They were more proud because obviously that's the country they're coming from. And in Africa, when you play for the national team, you literally God. Like, you can't go out anywhere. Everyone know you. And when my mom and dad was back there or going there on holiday, it was always special for them because they were proud to say their son playing for the national team. So for me, it was just another step for my career to try to play World Cups, African Cup of Nations, Olympics. So I managed to do all this, and I think what was very important for me was meeting those players, those world-class players play for big club and in all around the world, and I learned a lot next to them as well. So that was a good progression again for my career.
Yeah.
Cool. So After Leicester, you moved to Turkey and then to Palmero in Serie A, where you only played once. What did you think didn't work out there?
I think that was the system, the way Italian system is a bit weird, and I've never really been used to that, because the president and the sport director sign the players, and the manager don't even know sometimes what player has been signed. And I knew from minute one I was in trouble when I got to Palermo, because when I get there and I went to the training ground, the manager didn't know who I was.
Really?
And he was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, well, who are you? What are you doing here? Well, I just signed. I just came in from the World Cup. Like, what do you mean? So from that, I knew it. I knew it right away. So obviously, he was under a bit of pressure at some point. So that's why I played that game, because I think we lost a couple, and the president said, okay, that's enough now. You play that player. So I played, but that was the only reason. And I knew, like I said, the first minute I got there. So in January, I knew I needed to look for a move, and thanks God that's what happened. And I came back in England. I went to Leeds.
So yeah, that leads perfectly on to the next question, actually. So as you just said, from Palmero, you signed for Leeds on loan. When did you first know about Leeds' interest?
Well, I went to see the president at Palermo, and I said to him, well, we all know the situation, so I'm going to have to look to go somewhere. And he said, yeah, because obviously you're a good asset, because you're coming from the World Cup, you got 5 years contract. I can't ask you to stay here and stay on the bench, and I'm going to lose my asset. So what I need to do is you go on loan, because I count on you, blah, blah, blah. I want you to come here, to stay here. But obviously the manager is here at the minute, is doing well. So I can't force him to play you. So I've got a good friend of mine, he's a president at Leeds United. And I know you play in England, and you want to go back there. So I think that's something we can be done here. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I know Leeds. If I've got the chance to go there, it'd be perfect. And obviously, when Neil Warnock was there, he tried to sign me as well. So I knew everything about the club. I played against Leeds a lot of times in my career before that. So as soon as I heard that, I was buzzing. But the only problem is, he said himself, his best friend is the president in the club. So I was like, I don't want to go in a club again where there's an Italian president and it's going to drive me crazy. um, so I spoke to him first. I spoke to Celino, and he said to me, listen, I'm nothing like him. The good thing is, I know your reputation in England. I spoke to Neil Redfern at the time, and his assistant was, I forget his assistant's name, because I had him at Leicester, and he said straight away, yeah, take so. And I spoke to him. He said, yeah, come here, you will play. And what was good is, I know you speak Italian, and we got like about 8 Italian players, and it's a big trouble. You can come and sort that out. So as soon as I spoke to them, I knew I was coming. I was coming back to Leeds, and I had a few options to go back. I think Reading was interesting, but it was only one club I wanted to go after that.
So I was going to say, you mentioned your first day at Palmeiras training ground. Can you remember your first day at Thorpe Arch?
Yeah, I remember very well actually. I came in at the training ground, and Steve Morrison was there. I knew Mo before, when I played against him before I left for Italy. And funny enough, he was so happy I was there, and he said, "Oh, that's good, because you will sort out the dressing room, because I know what you like. I ask around as well. I know your character, and you won't take any of the things we take in the training and in the dressing room." And I was like, okay. So he took me to the dressing room, introduced me to everyone. Billy Sharp was there. I knew Sharpie as well from before, and he was happy as well I was here. And they showed me around, introduced me to the Italian lads as well, and we went to train. And after training, we had a meeting right away, because a few of the Italian lads wasn't happy with what was going on. and I was wide away in the middle of it doing the translation between the Italian and the English. And I was like, oh, Jesus, what am I doing here? Because the Italian lads wanted me to be in their corner and the English lad wanted me to be in their corner. So I was like,
Caught
I
in the
don't know
middle.
how I'm going to deal with that. Exactly. But no, at the end, it was good. I think we just, I think the way the Italians see in the football and the way they conduct themselves outside the pitch is completely different than the English lads, and I think that was the problem because 1-to-1, all the lads, every single one of them, they were good people, but they just didn't understand each other, and that was the big problem.
Yeah. Your first head coach as well whilst you were at Leeds was Neil Redfern.
Yeah.
How did you find him as a manager?
Yeah, he was good as gold, to be fair, Sam. He was good as gold because when I got there, he told me right away, same thing. He said, like, I need someone like you with your character, and because the dressing room is a mess. I've got good players, but the dressing room is a mess, and I need you to sort that out. And he said, you will play, you need to play. I think when I came as well, we were 21st in the championship.
Yeah.
You know,
down at the bottom,
we
wasn't
were
it? Yeah.
down at the bottom, exactly.
never end.
So yeah, exactly. So it was like we need result. We need, So I don't want to put too much pressure on you. I know you know the league, you know the game. So we need the result very, very quick. But if the dressing room is not so out, we won't be able to do that. But what was good is Thompson. That's the name. Thompson was the manager, the assistant manager, and I knew him from Leicester. So straight away he told me what was good, what was wrong, and I remember we went to play Huddersfield my first game, and we won. And from that, the atmosphere changed a bit. They gave me more responsibility as well. And I remember, I think we played Millwall after that at home, and we won. And we went to Reading, or it was the other way around. And after my third game, they just give me the captaincy.
Yeah, it took Redfern, like you said, a very short period of time to name you as a club captain, which I think it originally was because of Liam Cooper. He was the club captain at the time, wasn't he? But then he got injured. Did you expect to be the captain at the club after such a short period of time?
No, at all, to be fair, Sam. I came in, I wanted to play, I needed to play. I haven't played for 6 months. I knew the situation we were in. Like we said earlier, we were bottom, we were on the bottom. So I just wanted to play and get the club out of that situation. So me being me, the experience I had, I just can't keep my mouth shut, especially when I see something wrong. So straight away, very quickly in the dressing room, I become important. So Redfern said to me, like you said, Cooper was injured when we went to play against Reading, and Neil Redfern came to me and just said, naturally, you take the armband because it's you're a captain anyway. You speak to people, you make sure everything's okay. But I never expect that at all, never. And with the armband or not, I'll be the same. I will try to make sure the team is organized. I will speak in the dressing room before and after the game or half time. So that didn't change anything for me.
So when you became temporary captain, your first 3 matches were all wins, like you said, against Reading, Millwall,
Yeah.
and then that famous Middlesbrough game at the Riverside with one of the best defensive performances I've ever seen. How did you feel you managed to turn the performances around?
Yeah, I think that what was important for him is he needed to put his message across because I think half of the dressing room, for the wrong reason, didn't respect him because he was coming through the academy. I know at that time before I came, he was a law manager, came in and going, and I think that, like I said, half of the dressing room wasn't happy with the appointment of Neil Redfern. So I think what he needed to do is to have a few wins, and that's what he did. And obviously his message on the training ground was good as well. The way he wanted us to play football, because at the time I think he brought Cookie. Chaz was there as well. Moat was there. Sam Byron was there. So all those young kids was doing very, very well as well in the academy. And when they come up, they were playing proper football. And I think that worked to the teams as well. So training was better. We enjoyed it, and obviously, win give you confidence. So as soon as we had those 3-4 wins in a bounce, the team started to realize maybe the manager wasn't that bad. His idea was good, and obviously we were winning games. So I think you're right to mention that game. I think that was a turning point as well because Middlesbrough at that time was near the top of the league. So for us to beat them the way we beat them, and we were very, very solid as a team, because I know that game everybody talk about the defensive performances, and everyone was going about us, the back four, the goalkeeper. But as far as I remember, the whole team were very, very well organized and were difficult to beat. And that's always easy. I always said you can put the best back four in the world. If the midfielder doesn't do the job, you're in trouble. So I think as a team, we're very, very well organized and hard to beat. And that for me was the turning point, because from that on, we knew we would be safe, because if we can beat Middlesbrough, we were near the top of the league. We can beat anybody in this league. We just needed our confidence. And after that game, we had it.
Yeah, like you said, during that time, there was a lot of English players coming through, like Cook and Taylor and Moat. But about at the beginning of the season, Cellino, like you said as well, brought in a lot of Italian players.
Yeah.
How do you think these mixed in with the English-based players throughout the season?
Yeah, I think the problem itself wasn't the fact Cellino was bringing Italian players. I think the problem was the Italian player was, as soon as they came to the club, they think because they've been brought in by the president, they wouldn't be playing, there wouldn't be any competition. They can do what they want. They have a direct relationship with the president, so they can call him if something's wrong. They can even go and see him if they weren't happy with anything. And at the same time, that's the typical Italian way, because the president want to know everything. So I think that was good on both sides, but the English player didn't understand that, and they were not happy with it, and rightly so, because that's the way I see it too. I mean, we players, we know manager, we know owners, so we just have to play. But they didn't understand that, the Italian players. So I think that first of all was part of the big problem, and I think as well a few of the English lads, like the senior players like Steve Morrison, Billy Sharp, didn't understand the fact you go and pick Italian player from Serie B or Serie C, and things are going to be good enough for the championship. It's not, because the Cellino was making that mistake as well, thinking because championship is equivalent of like Serie B, so it'd be the same if I bring a Serie B player to the championship, but it's not, because the championship is hard and is,
definitely.
we all know how difficult it is. So that was his mistake, and the players can see that. They can see the Italian players were coming, but they weren't good enough, and they were playing. And from that on, it's always going to be a problem. So I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think the both sides, the English player as the Italian player, could have, try to calm the situation down and try to understand and say, listen, we're all on the same boat here. It's no point arguing about it. We just have to get on with it. And that's what I was trying to do and trying to say to them. I said, like, I'm not in any one corner. I just want, we're in trouble. The club is in trouble. We got no other option to be together and play together. So let's make the most of it. And at the end, we managed to do it. But it's always going to be difficult, because I think at the start it was Cellino made the mistake by thinking the championship was easy as the Serie B.
Yeah, and then like the Italian players and the English players, do you think there was any conflict between the two sorts of players, and do you think it affected how the team played?
Yeah, it definitely affected the team 100%, because we couldn't make the difference because I've been playing in teams, even in the national teams, where it was huge conflict, where people doesn't talk to each other. But when we go on the pitch, we all pull in the same direction. But that wasn't the case, at least at that time, because people wanted to show to other people they're not happy with them. So in the pitch, they didn't perform. I remember arguing with Pep Bellucci and said, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "Yeah, but I don't care, because I want to show them like I'm not happy." I said, "Yeah, but that's not the way to do it, because I'm in the pitch next to you. I want to win, so you can't just throw the towel and say like you don't want to play,
Yeah.
And that was the problem most of the time. And the English player was not happy with it. So when they were coming in the pitch as well, they wanted to show they're not happy, and it's not the way to do it. So it was a huge misunderstanding. But I think over the mistakes been made, like I said, by both sides. But I think Cellino could have sorted that out easy, and he didn't for some reason, and that's why we were in the situation we were.
Yeah, and just going back to Beluski as well, because many of the fans seem to think like he was like basically Cellino's buddy, but you obviously formed a centre back partnership with him while you were at the club, and he split opinions between fans because although he did clearly have some talent to play for the Leeds team, his off-field antics and his fiery temper like made fans think like, what is he doing playing for us? But what was it like to actually play with him?
No, it was good as gold. To be fair, Sam, it was good as gold. I think he's a strong character, and when people don't understand him, he even got more angry. But I still talk to him now because, like I said, he's good as gold. And trust me, I don't have a lot of friends, like proper friend in the game, but he's one of them because he got good heart, he cares. But I think, like you said, he haven't been understood by the fan properly because he made some mistake. He knows it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I think his body language and outside the pitch, like you said, I think he knows it now. He should have done better. But why sure he's never been Cellino's puppet because he always argue with him. They didn't know each other. I like each other. Sorry, I don't know if people know that. If the Leeds fan know that, but they hate each other. Absolutely hate each other because Pep didn't take any nonsense, and when he wasn't happy with something, he was saying it. And Cellino was most of the time telling him like to shut up, like he's the boss and he have to do what he want to do. So he's never been his puppet, but I do think he should have conducted himself better outside the pitch and sometimes in the pitch, and even with the teammate because when he's not happy with something, he don't take any glove like we said in France. He just go and tell you off. And I think especially when the young group we had were with the Taylor, the Cook, and all that, I think sometimes you needed to be a bit more diplomatic, if you like. But he wasn't like that at all, and I think sometimes that was his bigger problem.
Yeah, so in the end, the relationship between Beluski and the supporters went a bit sour, to say the least. Leeds fans were insulting him and booing him. One example being at that friendly game, I think it was York City, where he was booed when he was walking off the pitch, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Do you think that was fair, and did you feel sorry for him at all? Like he said, he could have gone about it better.
No, I understand that, Jack. I think I was disappointed, yeah, absolutely, and I feel sorry for him because as much as I understand the fan frustration, and like we all, especially now, like we all know, you paying crazy money to go to the game, so absolutely you can voice your opinion. But I think sometimes what you need to remember is that's not going to help him, and he's still at the club. I can understand if you do that and he leave the club tomorrow, it's fine. You voice your opinion, and he's gone and it's game over. But if he's still in the club, he's still going to play for you. At some point, he's probably going to play when the manager need him. And that's not going to help him, and that's not going to help the fan either. Because if you get booed for no reason for him, because he will always say it was for no reason, because the fans don't understand me, this and that. The player's never going to perform for you. Or when he's going to go on the pitch, he's going to be scared because he know you're going to boo him at any chance you got, and it's going to be difficult for him. So at that time, I do feel I felt sorry for him 100%. I understand the fans at that time to be frustrated and to boo him. But I think at some point those things need to stop because the fan need to understand if he's still at the club, at some point you're going to need him, and you need everyone on board for the club to be successful.
Yeah, so as we talked about, a lot of the Italian players came over to Leeds from Serie B. Neil Redfern was quoted in saying that some of the players weren't good enough for the Championship. What did you think about them in training?
Yeah, he's spot on, absolutely spot on, and it's no hiding from it. Everybody knew that. Like I said before, you can't bring people from Serie B, Serie C sometimes, and things are going to be good enough for the Championship. And I think Neil Redfern and the few the English lads was insulted. They were feeling like, come on, they disrespect us because they think like the Serie B is as easy as the Championship. It's not. So yeah, definitely they weren't good enough. A few of them, a lot of them were fine. Like you said, Pep was good. I think Pep needed a bit of discipline, but Pepe was good. Miracle was very good. I remember Miracle was good.
Yeah.
A few came in and they were nowhere near good enough, and they knew it, and we all knew it. But but it's no hiding from that. Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I'm not afraid to say it. And I think they left and got it spot on. They weren't good enough for the championship.
Yeah, so another story that seemed to be doing the rounds with supporters was that the fitness of the players and their diet, lifestyle, so on and so forth, wasn't up to standard to professional footballer, really. Was this evident in training at all?
Actually, no, because I remember Billy Sharp addressed that to me straight away when I first got to the club and said, that is a big problem and with the lads, and that is something we need to do something about this because the lads really, really don't like it because they do it in the dressing room. And I was like, no, come on, you can't do that in the dressing room. He said, yeah, at half time, they're going to shower and they do that in the dressing room. And I could not believe it. But I said to Billy Sharp at that time, I said, listen, I came from Italy. I know what's it like there, there's smoke and everything, not in the dressing room, but a lot of Italian people, even back in France, a lot of people smoke and all that. This is in their culture. So that's going to be difficult to ask them to stop. But what is for sure, you don't do that in the dressing room. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing I went strong on them, and I said to them, listen, smoke, we can't stop you to smoke when you leave the training ground, in your house, when you go out, if you want to, in the restaurant, whatever. But in the dressing room at half time, you don't do that. You do not do that because it's so disrespectful for us, for the manager, and for everyone. So I won't let that happen. I'm telling you now, if we need to fight, we'll fight, but I would not have that. So at half times they weren't doing this, but after that, when they leave the dressing room, the training ground or the games, yeah, they were smoking. I've been out sometime with them in the restaurant and they were smoking, but there's not much you can do about this, unfortunately, because I think in here people got the wrong impression because I don't think it's so much in the English culture for any sport people to smoke. But in Italy, in France, in Spain, I can give you thousands of people, big player who smoke, you won't believe it, you know.
Yeah.
So I think for us, back in France, Italy, Spain, I think it's a bit normal. But here, I can understand why they don't like it. But I think it was just to find the balance of when you can do it or not.
Yeah, of course. Like as well, we touched on Cellino brought these players to the club, but at the time, like during your first season while you're on loan, he was actually banned from ownership of the club because of he failed to approve to the FA's fit and proper owners test. But was it evident that he still had influence within the club?
Yeah, he was running the club for sure. Like he was running it, but I think obviously everything official, he wasn't in front of it, but he was making all the phone calls. The agent was talking to him. He was making all the decision. But yeah, we all know he was banned, but nothing could have been approved in the club without going by him. That's for sure. I think like once again, that's the Italian ways. They want to get involved with everything. They want to know everything, and I think unfortunately sometimes that went against the club. But he always had good intention. I think he had that temper a bit like Pep, where when you guys were not happy with a few things, and obviously I don't think he realized how big Leeds is in the country as a club, as a fan base, and he didn't realize when you guys are not happy, you can go out and voice your opinion, and that will make the news, that will go on the paper, that will go on the TV, and that would get bigger and bigger all the time. And I don't think he realized that because in Italy, especially the club he managed or where he was president, they were a smaller club. So if he said something, it's what goes. And it's never a big deal. It never goes, never make the paper or the TV. So I think he got shocked when he came here and he realized how powerful the fan were, and he found it difficult to deal with it.
The penultimate away match of that first season while you were on loan was Leeds' away match to Charlton, which still to this day remains a match that surrounded in controversy. Because although it was Leeds' fifth loss in a row, it's more remembered for the absence of some of Leeds' players. the Italian ones that were injured. Would you be able to describe what happened in the couple of days leading up to that match and what might have happened at Thorpe Arch to make them injured, or any reasons why they wouldn't be able to play?
Yeah, it was a normal week. To be honest, Jack, it was a normal week before the games. We trained. I remember, I think it was Pep and I think it was Miracle. On the Tuesday, I think they didn't train because they had like a niggle injury. Um, but it was an absolutely normal week, and the rest of them trained all week normally. So when we come on a Friday, when we needed to travel, and a few of them weren't there, nobody knew really like what was going on. We had the like you guys, they said to us, well, they're injured. Well, if they said they're injured, fair enough. But I think the big misunderstanding is it was like because they had the normal week training. It was the last game of the season. Like you said, we were on a losing streak as well. We lost a couple on the bounce. I think a few of the fans were on the backs as well. I think a few of them was leaving at the end of the season anyway. I mean, they got it all wrong. I was upset. I tried, excuse me, I tried to go them on the phone when we were on the bus going down to London, but I couldn't because they knew I wouldn't take their side and be upset. Because most of the time I tried to defend them, but on this I was upset. And even Neil Redfern said, "Just leave it. Just focus on the game. Don't worry about it." But I find this so disrespectful because for us as well. I think that's what most of the times they were missing the point. They think every time they're doing something is they just think about themselves. But it's so disrespectful for us, for all the team, for the club, for the fans. I always said nobody's bigger than the club, never. And when you do stuff like this, it's so disrespectful. So I wasn't happy with it. But it was the last game of the season. Obviously, like I said, we were losing games, so we wanted to finish well as well. And we were playing the next season. So we, as a player, we didn't make a big meal of it. But me personally, I wasn't happy with it, and I can understand why the fan went crazy about it.
Spot on.
Yeah, like many of the fans believed it was a protest from the Italian players towards Neil Redfern about him not treating them correctly or for other reasons like that. Do you think that was the case?
No, that's rubbish. That absolutely rubbish. Because if someone treated them good, it was Neil Redfern. He was good as gold. He tried. He was so patient. Never argued with them. Never said a word. Once I think at halftime he went crazy because they didn't perform and we were losing. But he was doing this to me. He was doing this to everyone, you know. But outside it, he was always taking them 1v1, talking to them in the office, trying to make them go in the right way and make sure they get well with the team and everything. No, Neil Redfern was good as gold. That is rubbish. That I can't have that. No way.
So you've previously stated that 2 players out of Egakani, Marco Silvestri, Dario Del Fabro, Beluschi, De Cara and Antonucci were genuinely injured, whereas the other 4 were not. Which players do you think were injured as opposed to protesting?
Well, if I'm honest with you, Jai, I don't think any of them were injured.
Really?
Absolutely. Let's be honest here. They all know. I mean, listen, it was 5 years ago. I wasn't happy. I wanted to talk. They said to me not to.
Yeah.
We look forward to the next season, this and that. They're gonna be gone, whatever. But I wanted to make the point, like you don't do that. It's so disrespectful. And as a club, if you want to go forward, when something is wrong, when something you're not happy with, you address it and you say it. But they didn't listen. But now, 5 years later, if you ask me and you want to know the truth, none of them were injured, and we all know it.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your honesty. At the end of the season, the 14-15 season, you ended up signing for Leeds on a permanent deal. It says that there were other clubs interested in the Championship. What made you stay at Leeds despite the other interest?
Oh no, that was easy, that because you know I came to the club and everyone embraced me, like from the fans, from every single one in the club, the secretary, the ladies in the canteen, my teammate. No, that was a no-brainer. It was easy for me. Like I was settled. I come back with the missus. She had a lot of friends up north. You know, kids to school. No, that was absolutely no-brainer. It was no way in the world I could have gone anywhere. I had a small argument with my agent because I could have gone somewhere else for more money. But like I always said, it's never about the money. It's about how you're feeling, how the club make you feel, like your comfort of the family, and that's what always comes first to me. So that was the easy decision, and it's a big club. We all know it. And
Yeah.
at that time, Cellino said to me, he's going to bring a good European manager. He's not going to do anything silly or bring in Italian or anything like that. You want to have a good goal. So yeah, I was looking forward to the new season, and there was no way I could have gone anywhere else.
Who else was actually interested in you
Yeah.
that season?
In the championship, I could have signed for Reading. I actually had a meeting with them. They were after me before actually I came to you guys. I actually met the manager at the hotel down in London, the Scottish guy.
Steve Clark.
He's a Scottish. Steve Clark, thank you. That's it, yeah. I met him. We had a good chat. He's a good man, actually. He nearly made me change my mind, but I said to him, I give my word to Leeds, I can't go back on it. And he respected that, to be fair. He said, like, that's telling me everything about you, so good luck and all that. So Reading was the closest because they actually made me an offer, a better offer than Leeds, but I decided to stay at Leeds, obviously.
Good choice.
And then when you did sign permanently, however, obviously from your loan spell to the permanent spell, there was a change of head coach between Redfern was sacked and Uwe Rosler was appointed as the head coach. How different was Rosler's approach to management compared to Redfern's?
To be fair, I was disappointed to see Redfern go, to be fair. I knew it, and we had a good chat before that happened, me and him. But I thought we should have given him a chance to have a full season with a pre-season, with new signing, he will pick, and we'll have a good goal. But obviously, Cellino had a different idea. But Uwe was good. Uwe was good as gold. He called me right away when he got the job. He told me what he wanted to do. He told me he wanted to appoint me as a captain. So I heard about him before when he was at the Brentford. Obviously, he had a good career, played for Man City and all that. So that always appealed and to the players. But unfortunately, him as well didn't give him enough time to do what he wanted to do. But he was good. He was very good. But I was disappointed to see Redfern go, to be fair.
Yeah, because when Rosler was appointed as well as him coming to the club, Cellino and the club also seem to be spending more money on players like Chris Wood arrived for £3 million and yourself and Stuart Dallas for a couple of million each. And that was something that Leeds hadn't really done before since they got relegated from the Premiership. Could you tell that their ambitions might have changed from taking gambles with the Italians to thinking, right, we need to spend money here to get to where we want to be in the Premier League?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think he got that. That was good from him. Like I said before, his heart was at the right place. He just didn't manage to take it further. Because I remember that season when he decided to get rid of Neil. That's what he said. He said, "I want to have a go. I want to bring like a young English, if I can, manager or European manager. I'm going to sign players." He actually asked me about Woodsy because I played with Woodsy in Leicester. And it was the same as well with Uwe when he said they were talking and he said obviously he asked like for a lot of money. You think we should pay that? Is he worth that? And I said, yeah, you should, because we need a striker. It depends how you want to play, but Woody, if you give him a chance, he will score. He signed obviously the Juve signed Stewie. He knew him from Brentford. Yeah, we had ambition, and that's why I was excited and I was looking forward to it. And that's why I was sad to see him go. I think he went in November or October or something. And he never had a chance to see a through. And when Cellino did that, I knew we were back to square one, because at the summer he done well, like you said, spent a few million, bought some good players, and he should have let him finish the season, but he was an impatient man.
Yeah, of course. Like Rosler was replaced by Steve Evans before the end of the year, and he was your third manager at Leeds in less than a year that you were there. how hard was it for yourself and as other players to adapt to different managers' philosophies in such a short space of time?
Yeah, but absolutely, Jack. But you said it. Oh, how can you have three managers in a season and expect to do well? You got no chance. Every manager want to come with his players and don't come with his philosophy. They want to come with his ideals. Like you got absolutely no chance, especially in a league as tough as the Championship. You know. So obviously we you try to do the best you can. But managers coming with different ideals, different philosophy. They treat the players differently. Um, it's hard. It's very, very difficult. So soon as that happened, we knew we were not going to go anywhere again. It's going to be a long and hard season as well. I mean, I'm not blaming Steve Evans, but I think when you got three manager in the season and three different, completely different manager with different philosophy, you got no chance, and that's why we ended up being where we were.
Yeah, like that season again finished quite similar to the season before, didn't it? Where the bottom half of the Championship, but yourself stood out for your good performances on the pitch, in my opinion. But it wasn't just the performances which I was and other fans thought was good. The way that they spoke about in the press about the club and things that were going on behind the scenes was quite something that us fans were surprised to hear, because we're used to hearing like the typical like hiding the problems under the carpet and keeping them away from the fans, but you always seem to say things how it was and tell things exactly what it was and show how you weren't happy, which I thought was quite good to hear.
That transparency meant a
Yeah,
lot at the
absolutely.
time
And
as
I
well.
think,
Sorry, Sal, go on.
yeah, but I think no, sorry, Jack, I think you deserve that. I think it's only right. I think obviously there's a few things when we go down to details or we can't go too deep with contracts or money or sometimes the talk we have with the club, which I think you guys as a fan you can understand that. But when is question about the club, what direction the club want to go, how the manager want to play, how the president want to run the club. I think it's only right the fans know about it. So if you ask me a question, I'll answer you absolutely. And I think at that time the club was going nowhere because they were chopping and changing managers. Steve Evans, bless him, but he was trying to do he was trying to get a job for the next season. He wasn't even worried about players or winning games or whatever. All he was doing is like trying to be good for the fans, for the press, and for the president to have to sign a new contract for the next season. And I said that to him. The players said that to him, and that's why half of the team like didn't perform at the end because they were like, well, why would we care? Why would we play for him? He don't care about us. He just want to sign a contract for. He want to please the president so he can sign a long-term contract. So when the club thinking like that, going in that direction, you're in trouble. So that's why we finished like mid-table and ended up doing nothing.
Did you ever get warned by anyone at the club for speaking your mind?
No, absolutely not, because they know me, Jack. They know me, and exactly what I'm saying to you guys or to the fans at the time or to the paper, I was saying that to them. So I had absolutely nothing to hide, you know. And actually, Cedino was calling me all the time and shouting to me or tell me how the team is performing like this. I'm the captain, so I'm in charge. It's not right, like the way we play. The manager is not good enough, or this or that. And we used to argue a lot about everything. But I was telling him, and I was saying, well, you said this, but you're in charge. You bought the player, you bought the manager. So you can blame me if you like, because I'm a player, yeah. So I'm responsible for it. But you the captain. We follow you.
Yeah.
You know. So no, they all knew everything I was saying. I was saying to the players. I was saying that to them. So I never had any problem with that.
So during your time at Leeds, you scored 5 goals. However, I'm sure we can all agree the best of the bunch was Wolves at home. What do you remember about that volley?
Nothing actually. And you know what? Before fans sent it to me in social media, I didn't even remember that. You know, because what's bad for me is I'm at the club and I enjoy it and I give everything I've got and I forget very quick because the most important thing is the next game, is the next challenge and is the next game you have to win. So I don't spend my time like thinking about the goal I scored or this and that. I actually forget that goal, but yeah, it was definitely the best goal I scored for the club, and probably the best goal I scored for in my career.
It's believed at the end of the season, players didn't know if the head coach at the time, Steve Evans, was going to continue, like you said. However, it says that you found out via a text message. Do you have any idea what this text message consisted of?
No, I knew, Jack. I knew. I think the team didn't know, but I knew because I think it was 3-4 games left before the season, before the end of the season, and Celino told me he was gone. He told me he was gone because he was going. We had a lot of trouble as well during the season with Steve Evans, the way he was managing the players, the way he was talking to the players. I had so many arguments, in fact, with him because all he was doing is shouting to the kids, and I said, like, why are you saying, like, you can shout if you tell someone how to do it and what do you want, but you don't say anything. You just shout, and the kid is terrified,
Yeah.
you know. And I said, you can do that. You can do that to me because you know I'm gonna give it to you back. But don't say that to the kids. They're 20, 21. They don't know, you know. Teach
Yeah.
them. And even the medical staff was saying that. Teach them. You don't train them. They don't know what to do because you don't even know what you want, you know. And obviously, Celino, we knew all this. And we actually had a meeting one day where a lot of players at the North End said they don't want to play for him. And Celino actually came and calmed us down and said, like, to trust him, going to do what is right. And after that day, that's when he told me, like, he's not going to stay anyway. So we all knew, but the text message just confirmed, but we all knew he was gone anyway.
Yeah, so after the season ended, Evans was eventually replaced and succeeded by Gary Monk. Something us fans felt was a positive appointment and a step in the right direction in terms of, ambition.
Yeah.
Did you feel the same way?
Absolutely. Because first of all, I knew Gary Monk from before. I played against him a few times. He actually called me when he was at Swansea and I was back in Scotland. And I think Swansea was in League One at the time with Martinez. And Swansea wanted to sign me before I went to Leicester. And him as a captain called me and tried to convince me and said that if I come, we're going to play together at the back, and they got ambition to go all the way up to the Premier League and everything. So I knew Gary Monk very well from before. And when he got appointed, he called me and he said, "I know it was difficult a couple of seasons with you at Leeds. Like, I have to deal with all the mess in the club and the Italian players and everything. But I will change all that. You're just gonna have to focus in of playing football. The rest, I will take care of it."
Gary Monk succeeded, and then the opening game of the 2016-17 season was away at Queen's Park Rangers, which was a match he continued to captain the side. However, a match that Leeds lost 3-0. Do you think that result was a wake-up call to both the team and Monk about what was going to happen in the upcoming season?
No, really. I think because I was saying before, like before the phone get to trouble. He was good, I think, when he first came in because he was a young fresh manager. We know what he did at Swansea, and I think it was a positive appointment, and everyone will agree with that. And when he came in, he spoke to a few of the lads, and including myself, and said, like, we all gonna have to worry. We're not gonna have to worry about anything else than playing football, which is good. Said all you need to do is focus on playing. I will deal with all the rest of it. I knew you've been doing with a lot recently, but that will stop. But it didn't really, because Celino being Celino, he was calling me, for anything. And Gary Monk didn't like that. And I was telling this to him as well. I said, like, he called me this and that. So I remember we were in pre-season in Ireland, in Dublin, and they had the first argument because Gary Monk told them, leave him alone. Just if there's anything, just talk to me. But Celino, being him, said, like, he does what he wants. If you want to speak to me, speak to me. It's easier to speak to me in Italian than speaking to him. Blah blah blah. So they had the first argument. So from this, I knew nothing's going to change anyway. So we had a good pre-season though in Dublin, and we came back. Like you mentioned, we played our first games against QPR and we lost 3-0. And I think that's where Gary Monk panicked a bit because obviously everything was positive. The fan liked him and everything. And first game we lose the way we lost, and straight away, obviously, the media started being on his case. I don't know if Celino was in his case, but obviously he was probably worried about that. So he changed straight away himself,
Yeah.
like his attitude, the way the training was different. He was more upset, and I think he will tell you this himself. I think that was he was a young manager at the time. I think he will probably deal with that better now. But back then, I think he started feeling the heat, and that's why he changed everything. And unfortunately, that was the end of me as well in the club because he wanted to change everything.
Yeah, because you featured four of the first 5 matches that season, and you
Yeah.
were still the club captain. But just one day after the transfer window, it were announced that your contract was terminated, which obviously came as a shock to supporters. But was there a reason why that happened?
No, at all. I was shocked as you guys because, and that's the only thing I always said. Excuse me, over all those years, people asking me and said like, "Oh, why upset against him or you don't say any bad things about him?" I said, "No, I don't have any bad things to say about him because, like I said, he was good, and I do think he's a good manager. But the only things I can upset with him, and he should have told me is he should have been honest with me and tell me straight away whenever that was when he decided to let me go. He should have told me early on, but he didn't. He told me he wanted me to go the last day of the transfer window at 12 o'clock, and the window was shut at 11 o'clock at night. So, I had no chance. And I said to him, "What's that all about?" He said, "Yeah, you got too much of the big influence in the club and in the dressing room. So if you don't play, people's going to start asking questions." And I don't know if you remember, but before that, we played Fulham, I think, at home, and he put me on the bench. And that game already, people was asking questions. The lads were saying like, "Why are you not playing Soul and everything?" And I think that's what make up his mind, and he decided to get rid of me because he said like, "It's either you play or you gone." Because you got big influence in the dressing room. And I was like, that's rubbish, that, because, I'm a player like everybody else. I know I'm a captain, but if you the manager, if you don't want me to play, I don't play, and I will be on the bench or whatever, and I have to fight for my place. I'm no different than anybody else. So you can't just get rid of me. And he couldn't give me an answer, and he said, "Well, go and see the president." I told him, and he will sort your contract out. So I go to see Celino and I said, "Well, what is that all about?" And he went absolutely crazy because he said, "I told them I don't want that. I said exactly what you just said. He can put you on the bench. You won't complain. You will fight because that's what you are. But he don't want it. He's scared because obviously the fan's going to be on his back, this and that. So he wants you to go." And I said, "Well, what do you want?" He said, "Well, he's my manager, so I've got to follow what he wants." And I said, since when do you knew that?" And he said, "Well, a couple of days ago." And I'm like, "And that's when you tell me now? You should have told me a couple of days ago. At least I had a couple of days to find a club." And he was like, "Yeah, but I tried to convince him to change his mind, but obviously I didn't. And now we need to find a way." So obviously I said to him, "Well, I still got a year, so I'm not going to leave without my money, because if you want to play like this, I'm going to have to defend myself." So he was good, to be fair, because he did said, "For what you did for the club, whatever, um, it's not going to be any argument. I will give you your money." And that's what happened. But I was very, very disappointed regarding Monk, the way he managed that, because I think he could have told me before. He could have went about it a different way. But I mean, I spoke to him after that. He apologized, to be honest, a
Yeah.
couple of days after, a couple years after. But listen, I'm not someone who hold grudges, so I moved on.
Yeah, so when you left the club, you became a free agent and joined Cardiff. Did you expect to find a new club that fast?
Yeah, I was never worried. Without me being cocky or anything like that, I was never worried because the minute I was free, I had a few options back home in France. I was already in talk with Neil Warnock, who said to me he's going to get a club soon, so I just have to wait for him. He will sign me. No, I wasn't worried at all. I nearly signed for Derby. I was training with them for a couple of weeks, and Pearson with other Leicester wanted to sign me. The day before he wanted to sign me, he got the sack. So unfortunately, I didn't sign for Derby. But I wasn't worried because I knew my reputation in the game. I knew I played enough games, and for me to find a club at least in the Championship. So I was never worried.
Yeah, so you went on to captain Cardiff in the Championship, and you played every game in your promotion-winning season, which also saw you feature in the Championship Team of the Year. Why did you think you could perform at such a high level at Cardiff under Warnock, but you couldn't convince Monk to keep you at Leeds?
No, I think I honestly think that was Gary Monk's decision, and that was him thinking maybe I've got a big ego or big character, so he can't put me in the bench, because nothing changes between when I left Leeds and when I went to Cardiff. I was the same player, absolutely the same player. I didn't change anything. My diet, my sleep, whatever. I was always the same. I've always been professional. It's just confidence. The manager, Neil Warnock, give me the confidence, and he let me enjoy myself and play the way he knows I can play. And Gary Monk didn't give me that chance. But I knew I could perform at that level. And it's not me being big-headed or anything. I know what I'm capable to do or not. And I knew I could play at that level. I knew I could play Premier League football. Like Warnock said, I shouldn't play Premier League 10 years ago. But with mistake I made, absolutely. With the move I made as well, going to different countries and all that, I made it late. But I knew I could perform at that level. I just didn't have the chance to do it with Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, like as well, Leeds obviously sit top of the Championship, and you've played in the Championship and the Premier League. If Leeds were to get promoted to the Premier League, how do you think they'd do?
I think they'd be fine. I think they'd be absolutely fine. But I do think why you need the most in the Premier League is experience, and I think that's why we missed, and I think that's why we went down, because we were very close. We went down I think we missed. Brighton had 2 points ahead of us, and all season people was writing us off. Said, "Oh, is it going to go down? Is it going to go down? Is it not even going to pass 10 points and everything?" And we challenged until the last game of the season, which is credit to us. And I do think in that league, experience is massive. Experience is absolutely massive, and I think in the Premier League, one mistake and is a goal. And in the Championship, you can get away with it. The keeper will save it, or the striker will miss it. In the Prem, they don't miss it to score. And if you're wide open and well organized, you're going to get done as well, because players are quicker, they're smarter, and they punish you right away. So I think they'll be absolutely fine, because the way they play attractive, like Sheffield United play now, and they're sitting fifth in the league. So I think you'll be absolutely fine. But I do think you do need a few experienced players at that level to make sure you'll be okay, because in this league you will have, as normal, if you get promoted, you will have some games where you're going to lose 3, 4, 5 games in the bounce. If you play Liverpool, City, United, and Arsenal like we did in games after game, you can end up like losing 4 or 5 games in a row. But that's nothing. You still have to pick up yourself and go again. And if you got a young group, you won't be able to do that, because they will be worried about the game, the lose, and they will look the next game and say, we got City now next, and we got Arsenal next, we got this, and they're never going to see the end of it. But if you got experienced player, they will tell you, forget about the next game, the last game, focus on the next one, and try to pick up the result. And if you move again, you move on until you get 3 points. So experience is massive in this league.
Absolutely. In January, Leeds brought in a few players to bolster the squad for promotion, fingers crossed. It was reported that you persuaded Jean, Kevin, Augustin to join Leeds. Is that true?
No, you give me too much credit. I didn't persuade him, but obviously me played for the club. He asked me if it was a good move and how was the club, the city, the fans, and I just told him the truth. But I didn't. He made his own choice, and actually he could have gone to United because he was actually in a hotel in Leeds with my agent because we share the same agent, and he was ready to go to meet the chairman and all that and sign his contract. And United was on the phone and asked to see him, but he made up his mind. He knew United he wouldn't be first choice. He wasn't playing. He haven't played much the last 6 months, so he didn't feel like he was ready to go and play for United. So I think he made the right decision to sign for Leeds. And you haven't seen him yet because obviously you need to. I think he's a bit behind fitness-wise, so you need to catch up a bit. And as soon as he's fit, you got a very good striker in your hands.
This second section of the show is where our followers get to ask their questions to our guests by commenting on our LUFC Fans on Instagram post. Each episode, we select 4 questions which are commented on our Instagram post and put them forward to our guests. This week's first question comes from Dave Ward, who asks,
Hi lads, hi. So, I just wanted to ask the question is, do you have any regrets leaving Leeds?
Yeah, absolutely, because I feel like it was like a unfinished business really because I was settled there. I was a captain and I was looking forward to the new season and to try to get promoted. So obviously disappointed about this. And the ways where I left the club didn't have the chance to say a proper goodbye to everybody and to the fans. So yeah, I regret that, but yeah, definitely.
Our second question comes from Kit, who's supporting Leeds all the way in Hong Kong, who asks,
Hi guys, hi. So this is Kit from Hong Kong. My question for you is: during your time at the club, there was a lot of controversial and chaotic moments, but which was the most chaotic moment of the lot?
Oh, that's a tough one because it was a few of them to be honest. But no, for me it was like we were saying the Charlton game at the end of the season because you can, as a professional, you always have to play um, every game and give your best, and you can't just refuse to play or pretend you're injured. So for me, that was the most disappointing one.
next, Jack Foster asks,
Hi lads, hi Sol. Hope you both are well. So here's my question. Sol, under your playing time at Leeds, in your opinion, who was the best manager to work under? Cheers, boys.
I would say coach was Neil Redfern because he was very good with the kids and his session was always good. And he make you learn. He really make you learn. And I think all the young kids he brought through will tell you that like the reason why where they are now is because of Neil. But as a manager, I have to say it was UV Rosler. Um, Obviously, he played the game at highest level. He's full of experience, so he knew how to manage the players. So as a manager, I would definitely go for UV. But as a coach, I have to go for Neil.
nice. Lastly, Harry Marshall asks,
Guys, and to yourself, Saul, my question is, what is your favourite or most memorable moment at Leeds?
It have to be my first game. The first game when we played Huddersfield. Billy Sharp scored at the last minute, if I remember well. It was my first game for the club. Came from Italy, didn't play much the first 6 months. The whole journey, I missed the championship, I missed the English football, and came back and played my first game where our hands were packed, where the fan was full. And I haven't seen that for a long time because in Italy the stadium man were full like this, and the game itself, the game was entertainment and entertaining. It was goals, and at the end we won. So I have to play the first game I played for Leeds.
and that ends this week's episode. Thank you everyone for sending your questions, and thanks all for all your time and being so honest with us.
Pleasure, Jack. No problem, mate.
We'll be back in
Thank
2 weeks with our next guest, but who will you choose? Stay tuned for the upcoming vote over on our Instagram story later this week. Thanks for listening.